Hello, everybody. Welcome to Endless Multiverse, episode 65, with just me flying solo. Well, not really, because we have a special guest here. Aaron Bailey, we've been talking about doing a stream or something for a very long time, and now we're doing it.
Here we are, yeah.
Now we're actually doing it. Andy, unfortunately, something going on. I'm not going to get into what it is, but I got messaged a few hours ago. So, flying solo with Aaron, but we have a big thing to talk about. But first of all, how was your week? Was it good?
Not bad. Yeah, not bad. Just working and doing a couple stuff with Night of the Batman, just trying to get everything sorted. So big week, yeah.
That sounds familiar. I think I've heard of that before. I don't know what that is exactly, but yeah, we're going to talk about that because I have questions surrounding that. I know that you've talked about it before, but I definitely have some questions. So we're just going to hit it. I'm going to hit the little intro here. I'm not sure if you've seen Constantine, Matt Ryan's Constantine, but this, yeah, we have this little clip here. It's amazing. It helps starts the show, gets the groove going. But anyways, Constantine, take it away.
All right, then. On with the show.
On with the show. I like that. Whenever I found that, I'm like, that's perfect to start the show. So we're talking Night of the Batman. Now, I don't know if you're familiar about this. I heard about this online. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's
it's like
Batman thing.
Yeah, weird nebulous, like, we don't know what it is. Yeah.
It just came out of the blue.
Yeah.
So it's hashtag. I'm like, what is this?
It's funny because it kind of did come out of the blue. Like,
oh, okay.
According to like as far as most people would know, because I had been working on and off on this for like 6 months. And then I randomly decided one day to be like, you know what, I should probably share that I'm working on this. Because maybe there might be some hype behind it. I was like, I don't know. And honestly didn't expect much, but it kind of blew up. So I was a little surprised. So
you were working on this for quite a bit before you decided to make it a full-fledged thing.
Yeah, I was basically just going to do it for me and a few friends. Like, and it kind of got like a little... It kept getting bigger. It kept like kind of snowballing because originally it was just, like I said, it was just going to be like a little thing where I put some stuff together and like we were just going to be like, that's cool. It would be like having a Batfleck movie. And then slowly I was like, man, I'm really like adding some like stuff to this. So I should probably like either get some help or announce it or, and I kind of just decided to announce it.
So I guess my first question is, what was your first kind of like inspiration to want to do this? Because this is a tall order. So this is a big thing you're undertaking. Like, what was the inspiration?
Well, it was, we had heard so many details about Ben Affleck's Batman movie, and it just like, and I mean, recently, as of like 2 days ago. So like, we had heard all this info, and I was like, man, this is sounding like really cool. Like, I need to see this movie. Like, I don't know what this is, and I need it. But of course, with things the way they are at Warner Brothers, that's probably not going to happen. So, especially not in the way that it was originally conceived. I'm sure they'll take ideas from it and stuff, but I was like, man, I want to see that. But then, I was like, I want to make something. At first, I was just going to do some like individual art pieces. So I was just going to do some like recreate some scenes from what we had heard was going to be in it. But then I kind of got to thinking, and shout out to my buddy Andre at a Nicotina show. He did Project Justice League, which that honestly was like the catalyst for me, where I was like, this is going to go from me just wanting to do some renders to I want to make this a like thing you can watch. And props go to him for like it. He didn't even realize he inspired me at the time, but I've told him since then. But that kind of inspired me, and I saw the fan reaction that got, and then I realized too, I was like, you know what, this would be a great opportunity to do something for charity. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can do that part of it, but I very much want part of this to be for AFSP. So if there's a way that I can do that, I want to do that. So it was those two things. It was like, getting inspired to make it into a project, and then wanting to do something AFSP related, since it has to do with Zach and Ben Affleck and stuff. So
that makes sense. I like the fact that, your inspiration came from other projects, not so much like, oh, I had this idea in my head, because that's kind of what inspired me to want to do, hey, I want to make some Star Wars fan films, or at least make something based off someone else's little project. I got to ask about Scarecrow, because see, I think in terms of Scarecrow, he's definitely one of, I think, the most interesting Batman villains. And normally when you see like a project made by fans or something, they go for Joker, Penguin. Scarecrow is something you really don't see. So was that in your mind? Like, I don't want to do a villain that's been overdone so much.
Yeah.
Or it's like, I want to tackle that because that adds a whole new dynamic in terms of story is the fear toxin and everything.
Well, that and you're exactly right. Like I like there was so many times where I was like, okay, like I get it. There's like there, we got Joker and we got like and I love Joker. It's just I do Batman has such a crazy like rogues gallery that it was always weird to me that it was just like, oh, a Joker story and another Joker story and he's the main villain again. And like and I wanted somebody for what I was doing that could challenge Batman psychologically. Joker does that a lot, but Joker can't, there's a facet of Scarecrow where he's able to like, he not only gets in your head, he literally gets in your head. Like he makes you see things.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me was wanting like a character like, and Ben Affleck's Batman is perfect for it because he, a lot of his Batman is based on the trauma that he's been through with obviously the parents thing. That's every Batman. But then he has this whole linchpin of like, he lost his Robin. And I think I've said this before. I don't want to like spoil anything, but part of the reason I wanted Scarecrow in this was to be able to have him he basically in one part of it makes Batman relive that night that Robin died.
Okay.
And through fear toxin visions that he goes through. And obviously I'm going to incorporate Joker into it. There's going to be a couple scenes with Joker, but he's not the main villain. He's not, but I do love Joker and I wanted Joker to be a part of it. But Scarecrow is just so cool.
Oh yeah. And I think back on the 90s animated series, how they handled Scarecrow there. Yes. And then of course, later on where of course Batman Begins and all that. And so they were trying to incorporate that somehow. Of course, they had Scarecrow kind of throughout Gotham series, which
a little bit.
That's a whole thing where like that show tried so much and they were just like, we can't do exactly everything we want, the rights and all that nonsense. Yeah. But I think that's fascinating because it definitely is a different approach because like they were like, okay, Scarecrow is the main villain of Arkham Knight, the last Arkham game, but then it's like, oh, Mark Hamill's Joker, he is in there still. Like he's still in there, but he's dead.
So weird, yeah.
But I think that game kind of showed how dangerous and how brutal Scarecrow can be. And just the image alone that you've shared, like I like the design of it.
I'm still tweaking it. But I wanted the Scarecrow that was like, because I see that was one thing for me in Batman Begins was I loved the casting of Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow. That's like inspired like casting, but I also I didn't like that he could just take the mask off and there was no like I like the idea of Scarecrow having something physically different about him all the time rather than just like it's a bag. Yeah. I like the idea of him looking completely like a scarecrow because I think that's unsettling. And I loved what Arkham Knight did too with the needles and the gas mask. That was just, and having the serum like drip out of the needles was cool. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to do something like kind of almost honoring. You mentioned Batman the Animated Series, which has that episode that he first shows up in has one of my favorite Kevin Conroy. I mean, pretty much everybody's favorite Kevin Conroy line. Mm-hmm. I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. Because and he makes him see his father. Mm-hmm. And that's what gets me. Like, he's like, I'm disappointed and all this. And I'm like, like, dude, I was like, imagine that, but with Affleck's Batman. I was like, I need to see that. And that was why I was like, Scarecrow, he's got to be it. Like, he's got to be the villain in it. So,
do you have a plan for like a trailer, or are you gonna like go for it? We're just gonna release it.
No, there's definitely gonna be a trailer. I'm talking to some people about. I'm not great at video editing. I tried to do YouTube years ago, and major props to all you guys that do YouTube. I've said this to Dave and a few other people, but I can't do it. I can't figure it out. I'm not great at the video side of things. But so I'm pulling on some people that are way better than me at editing and doing stuff like that. And I'm working on a trailer. It's a thing where I want to make sure I get the right music for it, and I want to make sure that I have enough to like piece together for a trailer, basically. Like, because right now I'm kind of all over the place with what I'm working on. And I'll just be like, I'll wake up some mornings, be like, I want to work on this scene, and I'll just start like putting stuff on there, and I'm like, man, this is kind of sporadic, and I'll have a scene from this end of the thing. And so right now, if I put together a trailer, it's kind of like, it'd be a little confusing. I think you'd watch it and go like, what is the story here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's a good point, because like I had a fan who had reached out based off our Star Wars fan projects. Like, he's like, I want to reanimate an animation, your fan project. I'm like, well, why don't you make something original? So I wrote him a short, and he kept adding stuff to it. It was a motion comic, it turned out, because the animation, it was just his computer just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So when I went to go make the trailer, I was having that issue too, because you're like thinking, well, if I show something now or whatever, like I had the full thing, but I'm thinking, how do I put together something that shows some cool imagery, but doesn't reveal too much, but also isn't like, what is this about? So it was a tricky thing to kind of handle. Of like,
that's why I like utmost respect for people that cut trailers for Hollywood, because I mean, well, sometimes you watch a trailer and it's like the end of the movie's like in the trailer, and you're like,
exactly,
but
it's like the last shot or something, and then it shows the logo.
Actually, a recent example of that is how much I loved Oppenheimer's trailers, because I felt like if you didn't know the history behind it, it didn't really give too much away. I mean, Christopher Nolan's kind of good at that though. Like most of his trailers, you watch them and you're like, I get the idea of what's happening, but it's not ruining the entire, third act of the movie. Which, I mean, for Oppenheimer, it was such a psychological movie that I don't know if you could really ruin it in a trailer, but
not really. Because I mean, I think everyone, or at least most people, have an understanding roughly of who he is, or at least his connection to how important he is. To that era of time,
and the aftermath too. I mean, his most famous speech that you can watch on YouTube is literally his guilt, the aftermath of So, but with something like this, when it's a comic book property, you have to like be kind of careful, because you want to keep some like character surprises in there. You want to keep like, same with your Star Wars thing. That's a huge IP, so it's like. Now, have you posted these on your channel? I haven't seen these yet.
Oh yeah, they're all well. It's kind of a tricky thing. So everything kind of fell apart because the last movie was taking forever to go in post-production when we had shot it a year prior. So everything kind of fell apart. So the last movie is not on my channel. I still have yet to watch it.
Oh, okay.
But I know personally it is the best written that I wrote. But in terms of like all the trailers of like our first couple films, like it was tricky because essentially we had one character that was created by Lucasfilm, and every other character you see is all original characters that I created.
Wow.
So it's like a tricky thing to where, okay, a lot of people saw the first film, then way less the second. So how do you market to try to get people to like, ooh, what's this? Okay, I need to go back and watch the other movie.
Yeah.
So it was like a fine line of not trying to spoil, but then again, like you're trying to progress the narrative, so you don't want to make it feel ambiguous. Like, well, who knows what's happening in this movie? Yeah. So I had to show stuff that is kind of
I had somebody like about a week or so ago DM me and ask me about Night of the Batman 2, and I was like, for one, this was always going to be one thing.
Yeah.
And two, I'm not even halfway through making this. I'm not ready to think about, so I mean,
that's the same thing that we had talked with A-List Productions, who just put out Superman Solar.
Yeah.
So he had done that fan project and everything. Yeah. So we had talked with him last week and everything, and he was discussing, and we were joking because when he was on our show way back when he was doing the promotion Indiegogo to get the funding, we were discussing the fact that people were already asking him as he's promoting the Indiegogo for the first one, what about the sequel? What about this?
It's like, man,
like first of all, he doesn't even have the funds yet for this one to even make it, let alone even think about what the second one's going to be. And so that's really frustrating that people are like, hey, so what about the sequel?
I always say, like, look, if anybody wants to step up and give me like a couple $1 million to make several things, go for it. I'll make it. But until then, it's like, I'm not even doing funding. Like, that's the thing. Like I kind of like, I thought about it at one point, and then I saw a couple fan productions getting a bunch of flack for doing GoFundMes and stuff, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to go through the backlash and the all that stuff. And yeah, I know Warner Brothers is really weird about. I've talked to a few people about like copyright with Warner Brothers, and they are so weird about copyright. And,
well, yeah, their copyright is definitely shifted because before the buyout from Discovery, if I had a video claimed by their YouTube claims department, whatever it is, if I just dispute it, claiming fair use, they release it. Now, if they claim it, you dispute, they'll immediately reject it. They're like, nope, we own this content.
Well, see, I'm not worried about, if they claim, like if I post Night of the Batman on YouTube and they claim it, I don't really care because I'm not trying to make like money. I legally can't make money on it. But my thing is I don't want to go through all this work and then I post it to YouTube and then they just take it down. Like
I don't think that would happen because your video would not be monetized.
Okay.
Superman Solar does not get taken down, and they had the Indiegogo project and everything, and they got the fundings, but see, they didn't use it to get any sort of copyright thing. So as long as your video, when you upload it, is not monetized, and I don't know about what you're going to do about music. I'm assuming you're going to have music.
It's original music, yeah.
Okay. Well, so then you'll be fine.
That's why I was so insistent on, like, even before a trailer, getting somebody to do the music, because I was like, man, I'm not trying to deal with the music end of the thing.
Because that will get you.
I'm going to have, like, notes of, like, Affleck's Batman theme from BVS in there, but not the actual composition, because that'll just, then I'll get the hit from, like, Water Tower Music for all the stuff, so...
And you don't want that.
No, I'm not trying to deal with more copyright.
Music is the worst when it comes to like copyright that I've noticed. When it comes to like TV or movies, it's a little bit different. But music, man, they are super strict. Like that's
because you do like Metallica reactions and music and stuff like that, and I'm sure that's I'm a huge Metallica fan, so I feel you there. Yeah.
It's a pain. There are some bands that are fine, and it's weird. So Metallica's Lux Eterna, the first single off the new record, I didn't have it. I had it playing off an iPad as I was recording my reaction. I was on vacation, so I wasn't prepared to film. So that wasn't claimed. I'm like, ooh. But then as soon as I do the next single and have the video in the corner, the music's playing through the speakers, traditional. So it's picking up the audio directly from the computer, claim.
Of course.
And some of their live videos from last year were not claimed. But mostly Metallica and music in general, it's like claim.
It's weird. I wonder if the live has anything to do with like the sounds going on other than the music.
Maybe.
I wonder if that, and it's like they're always, every time you play it live, it's different. They add different touches, and
it might have been just a glitch, because then I've done some videos of live shows this year and they claimed. So
you know how James Hetfield is. He loves to do like different singing things in different, like he'll throw in a different every time, and like he loves to mix it up. So,
and Lars just going all crazy, trying to do something. He's bored because I love the fact, because he was asked about that, because I think it was him and Robert, they were being interviewed, and the guy asked specifically about Welcome Home. I'm not sure why he asked specifically about that as in live. And the guy's like, hey, so why do you like do like drum fills in the first verse, like when you're starting up? Like, what's all that? He's like, we play the song so many times, I'm trying to not be bored up there.
Yeah, just let me do something different.
People give him crap. Like, guys, just let him go.
Let the man.
You should get Metallica to do the music. There you go for another Batman.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on now. That would go really great with Ben Affleck's Batman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now you've inspired me. Now I got to go edit the warehouse scene from BVS to like a Metallica song.
Do it to one's like darkness imprisoning. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
or like start
when he hits people.
Yeah. Start with dun 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 dun, and then
you're about to see now, man,
gotta go do it. Post
I'm
it
gonna be on my computer like, oh, crap.
Get it on Twitter.
Yeah, gotta be up soon. Yeah,
that'd be amazing. I mean, did you see the trailer with Punisher first season? They had the one song.
Yes, that's actually what I was thinking of when you mentioned the drum beat lining up with it, because they had him shooting the gun to the drum beat, and I was like, dude.
Yeah, I was at work and people were tweeting at me and posting a comment of the last video I posted saying, when you get home, that Punisher trailer is going to blow your mind. Like, okay. And I started up and I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. And then I started like freaking out, like, it's one. And then, of course, they play the, I'm like, oh, God, that's perfect.
Yeah.
God, it's so good. I do want to say, though, in terms of your renders of Batfleck, like, especially that one that in the middle below you, that shot, of course, that's been used quite often. Like, that's insane.
Thanks, man.
How much motion are we talking in terms of the motion aspect of it?
Well, see, I kind of got in like over my head a bit. So I'm looking for some more people that use the same program that I do, which is Daz Studio, which I'm like the outlier. Everybody uses Blender and like Unreal Engine and stuff. And
I've heard of Blender. Yeah,
I'm just super familiar with Daz, which most people don't like because it doesn't have the feature set that a lot of the other ones do. But I just have so many, like, I've bought assets for it, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to have to like switch over to something else and buy more. I don't have the money for that. So with Daz, it's fully, you get fully posable stuff. I'm fine tuning everything like finger position, stuff like that. So it's gonna be dynamic, but it's gonna. Whereas, like, if did you watch Project Justice League, right?
Yes.
Okay. That, it's going to be sort of in the vein of that, where it's like, you'll hear audio of the scene, you'll hear the voice acting, you'll hear the music in the background, and you'll kind of get a render and an image with effects that kind of pans and moves as the scene goes through the scene. So if a certain character's talking, it may focus more on that character, pan back out. Stuff like that. Because otherwise, I mean, this would take me, like, if I was going to do, like, a fight scene and Batfleck kicks somebody and then you see him turn around and, like, hit somebody else, I can't do every single, like, hit, kick. I would be rendering for years. Like, so.
Because people don't realize how much work goes into animation.
Yeah.
Right? Especially, like, on the level of something like this or just in general. I mean, I think back on just watching the new show, My Adventures with Superman, like, that's a very different style. It's not 3D, but literally, if you go watch, say, episode 5's fight scene towards the end, there's so much going on, and that it took them a while to get it to that level because they're going so fast. And you're like, and it's going fast to the point where it's fast, but you can also keep up. Because sometimes I've noticed that with animation, sometimes it's so fast, it's hard to understand what's happening.
Yeah. And that's the and that's the thing that I've been going back and forth with I wanted to include the Batmobile because his Batmobile is my favorite, but then I'm like I'm thinking about this, and I think I said this on a show like last week where I was like, you have the Batmobile and you want to do something with it, but what do you do with the Batmobile in a like rendered, like, there's not going to be like fluid motion, and who wants to see the Batmobile in like frame and then like a later frame. And then, like, so I basically, like, I'm having to include the Batmobile, but, like, I want to, but it's not going to be in, like, some big chase scene like BVS or the Batman.
Let me think. So you could have it to where you could pay homage to, like, Zach's first image of Batfleck next to the Batmobile.
Man.
And then
you're good.
Yeah, standing there. And then maybe have a shot of him jumping in, maybe have the ignition of the engine, flames coming out or whatever. Maybe the veer out. Maybe you have a shot in Gotham where he's driving through, or like you see the motion of like maybe another car and then he's driving past.
You sure you didn't see something? Because you just described two things that I've literally
I've not seen nothing. Okay. I'm just because I'm trying to help you out.
That was good.
I'm trying to help you out.
That first thing you said, that's actually something that I've been working on, is a recreation of that exact shot. It's more of like an exercise that I was doing to see how close I could get to the original shot. But That's funny.
Because see, my brain constantly is just like running with like ideas and stuff. So like as soon as you're like, well, I don't know, I'm like, well, here's something, because that was something me and the guy who was working on that the short that we had done, the motion. So the short I wrote was very short. So he added a bunch of extra stuff to push it out to where it is lengthwise, because it would have been way shorter if he would have just stuck with exactly as I wrote it. So he was trying to find ways to extend the fight scene between the Sith and the Jedi, trying to find ways to incorporate more people on the planet that were being attacked and all this stuff. So that could be something you could potentially do, of where if he has to go from one place to another, just show like he's driving through the city or driving, you know, maybe show someone's reaction as the Batman passes, like that's the Batman.
Yeah.
And then you show like maybe where it hits his end point, and then he's jumping out of it.
Yeah. It's like you get the idea of it.
Get the idea
without having the motion. Well, see, and I don't know if you I'm sure you went through this with your Star Wars thing too, is like writing for something that people have expectations for, like a universe or characters, is like the most daunting thing ever. Because, you know, you're writing for Star Wars. That's something that people love. Yeah. And you're like, am I like I'm second guessing myself all the time. And I'm like, people love this version of Batman. And here I am sitting having to write like his dialogue. And it's like, oh, dude, like, what am I doing?
Okay, this is actually really funny. So when I was on Dave's stream to promote that short that was coming out the next day, I had teased to him I was working with that guy on a Batman original story. Now, it never ended up happening because his computer and situation, so we fell out of contact, but it's okay. But I had the same issue you're having. I was writing this version of Batman's dialogue. I was writing Robin's. I was writing Batwoman. I was writing Dick Grayson. I was like, I was fine with pretty much everybody except for Batman. Now, it wasn't like Ben Affleck's Batman. It was just an original Batman that I was creating. And I'm thinking, like, would Batman say this? Like, I don't know. I'm second guessing myself. And so I am kind of happy that it didn't get made, even though I wish it would have, because I would have loved to have seen it come to life. Because I actually created an original villain for it.
Oh.
A villain that you would not expect the Bat family to fight. And so
now I need to see this.
So when it fell apart, I was like, I wish I could get it done, but at the same time, I would be second guessing after it's released. Did I make the right choice? Because Batman at certain points is front and center, and he's the only person talking. And so that makes it hard, because I feel like the back and forth between somebody is a little bit easier.
You can bounce it off and like
and then like the different dynamic, because the opening scene pretty much is him and I think it was Tim Drake Robin, I think. And so when there was a discussion, Robin's like, hey, so this has been happening. And it's revolving around the harbor. He's like, hey, can I tell Aquaman about this? And Batman just starts walking away. He's like, well, can I? And Batman goes, no. And then he gets the Batmobile and heads out. And then Robin's like, fine, or whatever. And he's like annoyed because he wanted to tell Aquaman about something's happening in the ocean. So he just got annoyed and then he grappled away. I thought it was a nice response, because Batman's already frustrated that this thing keeps happening in the harbor. And then Robin's like, who can I tell Aquaman? And he's like, no, I'm done.
And that's such a Batman thing to do. Like, just no, get in it, leave.
Yeah,
like,
because he doesn't.
I'm done.
Let him deal with it. He'll tell Arthur later. Don't worry about it. Just need Robin jumping in.
And that's something about Batman too. Is like, especially with the way Affleck's Batman is I'm having to go back constantly, and like I'm like, how does he talk here? How does he approach this kind of situation? And that's one of the reasons why making this like a psychological thing and not an action oriented thing was a blessing and a curse. Because like the blessing is that it doesn't rely too much on me having to me having to render action scenes. Yeah, because that's going to be almost impossible for still renders to convey. But the curse of it was, now I have to write all this dialogue, really long stretches of like psychological dialogue, and I'll just be thinking about it and trying to write things, and I'm like, man, this is making me feel like, I'm like, God, I can't write this for too long. This is like dark stuff. Yeah. Like, and having it, this takes place 10 years before BVS, so he's in a different. He's in like a kind of a different place.
Yeah. So because obviously in BVS he is like Dark Batman to the 10th fucking power.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he's not there because he's pretty much at his end, pretty much at BVS. So I would assume that he's on his way. But you said you're flashing back to the night of what happened.
Yeah. So the main story takes place 10 years prior to BVS. The Black Zero event from what we see in Man of Steel. 10 years before that, and he's in this spot, this weird place, because it's before, the Man of Steel event's really what pushed him over the edge. Mm-hmm. The way that's the way I always interpreted it, is the death of Robin was the catalyst, and then Superman arriving was the final straw, and that sent him over the edge.
Especially when his building crashed down and
that's what I mean. Yeah,
everything fell apart,
and he blames it on Superman at first, and that was like the thing that the straw that broke the camel's back. That was the thing that really sent him over the edge. So it's a weird place to write him, because it's after the death of Robin, so he's still in a weird place, but he's not too far. He's not doing the branding, and he's not he's still a recognizable Batman. Mm-hmm. At this point in the timeline, but it is easier to write in a way, because you don't have to include a lot of you don't have to include Flash, Aquaman. He doesn't even know about them yet, so it's
okay,
because he finds that out in BVS. So he doesn't even realize that there's really many metahumans other than the ones that he fights. Because I guess you can consider Killer Croc and some of them sort of. They have enhanced strength.
Well, it really just depends on. Well, obviously, we see Killer Croc and Suicide Squad. It would really just depend on what I guess that's a good question. What do you call some of the villains in Batman's rogues?
To me, Scarecrow is a meta. Is sort of not like a normal human, because the fear toxin is basically magic. Because there's it's not like a normal hallucinogen or something. You're literally physically, you're there. And I just think a lot of his villains, it's hard to it's this weird thing where you're are they metahumans on the level of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, or it's strange. So
because you could make Batman very grounded, very realistic, or you can go over the top or do a mix and match, because I like the constant conversation about Batman, to where Batman needs to be a grounded only hero or a vigilante. And it's funny, it's okay, so the guy who's fought a man named Ra's al Ghul, who can regenerate himself constantly, he's fought Dracula, he's done all these over the top, and a good example too, say Killer Croc. I mean, that is not grounded.
No. I mean, he also fights a giant guy made of clay.
That too. So so if you want to make Batman grounded, he could only fight as pretty much what Christopher Nolan did. Very grounded. There was no breaking of a barrier of what can actually be accomplished, because everything Joker did can be done physically. Everything this version of Scarecrow did can be done physically and science-wise. Same thing with Bane.
They nerfed Bane, man.
Everybody knows me, yes.
And
then you have Talia al Ghul,
Well, see, the thing with Nolan is in the Dark Knight trilogy, and I get a lot of flack for this, but I think they're incredible movies. I like watching them as crime, kind of like twisted crime films, and because that's essentially what they are, and at the surface level. But I love them as films. I do not like them as Batman movies. Because to me, they don't embrace most of what Batman is about.
Because I saw you say you like the Batman.
I love the Batman.
Okay, because
to me, that's a great Matt Reeves has the potential with that to actually make it the best of both worlds. He has the potential. I think he set it up to where now with the sequel, he could do something like Freeze. He could do have something a little more fantastical. And you would believe it.
Because there's like that subtle little thing of him having the cameras on his eyes is like little, like that little thing, and him spending a little more time in his bat cave adds to, okay, so this is truly him being the detective. And then him, of course, having the cameras, that's smart because every single thing he witnesses, he can play back.
Exactly.
I don't think we've seen much of that ever in the comics where there's a way
not
where
like a literal like camera like that.
Yeah, because he figured out a way to, like, whenever I'm out at night, someone says something that I maybe didn't catch, I can have a playback.
And then having Selena use it, Selena to use it later in the movie was genius.
Yeah,
it's because only she could go there. He can't show up as Bruce Wayne, or he can't show up as Batman.
And the way it's set up is that this Batman is so, like, new that we can go fantastical.
Exactly.
Nothing says it has to be grounded necessarily.
Yeah, and Gotham is just fantastical enough, I think, in the Batman to where you could make it the really over the top kind of Gotham. It has that vibe. Whereas that was my number one complaint about Nolan's Bat films is it's literally just Chicago.
Yeah, because
it's the most non-Batman looking.
Because in the first film, Batman Begins, it does have that sense of Gotham, but then it kind of loses it in the second and third, where it's just a big city.
Well, because they explained it away as, like, in the first film, he's in, like, what are called, I can't remember what it was called. Like, there was like a name for that area of the city that he was in the first movie.
The slums.
Maybe that was it.
Something.
And it had the tents everywhere and like the broken down buildings. And that looked awesome. But that's my favorite suit. I'm not a big fan of the suit that he wears in the second two. I like the more like classic.
And the emblem is more
big bat.
Like,
I like that one a lot more. The more Batman looking. The other ones look too much like a ninja, like kind of weird riot armor.
Batman is a ninja, but I get your point. Because he's always trying to upgrade or something, and that's what makes me wonder about Matt Reeves' second film. Is like, are we going to get a major upgrade? Or are we going to do some soft modifications?
I'm so torn, man. I don't know. Like I love that suit. I love the suit, and I love the fact that he's got the blade built into the logo, the emblem. Like that's cool. I like the little like I can't remember what those are on his wrist. They're like needle. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I like those. I like everything about it. But I do think maybe with some slight refinements.
Yeah. Let's say he goes against Mr. Freeze, because I'm thinking back on the Batman mid-2000s animated show. I watched that for the first time a little while ago for the channel. I got to the Mr. Freeze episode. He had to make a new suit because he could not withstand this over-the-top Mr. Freeze. Yeah. So what if he goes up against Mr. Freeze and realizes my suit can't handle this, and he has to modify it? Not saying he goes the route of the show, because the show did like a white suit, which was weird.
Well, and let's hope it doesn't go the Mr. Freeze outfit from Batman and Robin. But that's funny. Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, though, because that you could really do that with any of the villains that he might go up against. Like I think it would be cool to have, in this first one, he went against Riddler. And for the Riddler and the kind of crime that he normally fights, which is just thugs on the street up until this point, he didn't really need anything other than just something that would keep him from taking a bullet or take a hit. Yeah. So I think in the next one, if Matt Reeves pits him against somebody that's a little more like otherworldly, sort of like, or more, more superhuman, he may have to. I think he'll get in the first fight with him, and then he'll just get his butt kicked.
Based on the tone that he established in that first movie. And in a sense, it's not horror, but there are horror elements, especially when he's coming from the darkness in that opening scene. Yeah. Which, by the way, my wife, who doesn't like Batman, liked this movie, which I was surprised. She accepted the whole thing, didn't fall asleep. And I think if you want to do horror, I think Clayface is the right choice, because he could be hiding anywhere. He could transform into anything. And that could really mentally screw Bruce up. Really build the paranoia up. Like, where, like, who can you trust? Who can you believe? Because he literally could turn into Selena. Yeah. And Selena's back. Mm-hmm. And because we could say that. Oh, that would be so good. I didn't think of that. Because we could say Clayface has been following the Batman, or at least was kind of observing him from a distance in the first movie. Saw him interacting with Selina, realized there's a connection, and then use that against him.
Well, and have a scene where Bruce, as far as Bruce knows, Selina's gone. She went to where did she go at the end of the?
I forget.
I can't remember. But she, he still thinks she's gone. Then she shows up again randomly, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm back." And then have a scene later in the movie where Bruce gets a call, and it's real Selina, and she's like, "Bruce, I need your help. I need you to come here to where I'm at and help me." And he's like, "What are you talking about? You've been here the whole time." And she's like, "That's not me." And then the realization washes over him like, "Oh my God."
Or like have it to where, so he's fighting some thugs. He's already faced off against Clayface, and he loses. He's fighting some thugs later on, and then Selina shows up. And then they start to get together. And then he gets that phone call. And then say he runs into Clayface again, but they don't fight. But he taunts him and messes with him somewhere. Yeah. So he's like more on edge. He's at the mansion. Alfred's out of the way because Selina's over. They're hanging out. Gets that phone call, and then because Reeves did this in the first movie. That mayoral candidate and Riddler was behind him as the lights. So you have him on the phone. And at first, it's crackly, so he doesn't understand who it is. But then it's Selina's voice, and then he's like, "Selina." And then behind him, you see where Selina stands up, and it's out of focus. And then, as the conversation continues, then you start seeing the morphing of him go up.
Or the shadow. Do a Werewolf by Night and have Batman standing there, and then the shadow goes from Selina and morphs into Clayface.
Yeah,
just like that exact shot from.
And then when he like say like he has something nearby, he throws it, gone, and then he's searching around the room, and Clayface is hiding, and he can't see him.
Now you made me want Clayface.
And just like Werewolf by, so I'm guessing you saw the Disney Plus Werewolf by Night special. Yeah, so like you know how he jumps out of that like top and it's just like whoa, it's kind of like that. Do that to where he's like turning around, and then as he's passing a point, jump. It's like that would
making me want Clayface in this movie, man. I wasn't even on the Clayface bandwagon,
and now
I want Clayface, man. I was a Mr. Freeze guy.
I'm calling it Matt Reeves right now. Hey, I got an idea for you.
Yeah,
I know I already have your story, but I got an idea.
Yeah,
he goes, "Did you read the script?" Yes, but
listen,
listen, you gotta do something. We gotta do something better.
We gotta change this, man.
You can tease Mr. Freeze at the end of this one. Just make him for third. It's fine.
I just my thing is with everything changing in DC, and we're supposedly getting this DCU and stuff, and which is a whole nother thing for me. But like, I want Matt Reeves to be able to just do his thing. I don't want his thing to be connected to anything.
Yeah,
I just want that this universe give me this one thing, this dark version of Gotham. I don't think this version of Batman would like gel if like Superman showed up. It'd just be really weird.
I was going to ask you about that. So let's say that Matt Reeves, his stuff is not connected. No connection to the DCU, nothing. Like, how would you feel if another version of Superman did show up? Because we know they're doing Elseworld stories, and I think even thing came out to where I forget his name, but the guy behind Haunting of Hill House, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
There was a rumor about him doing a Clayface within the Matt Reeves continuity. I think there was like a rumor about that.
I saw it.
Yeah. So I honestly would not be opposed to it as long as it's not David Cornsway. Because obviously they've already announced they're doing an older Batman and Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
But I would not hate it if, say, a new Wonder Woman showed up in Gotham. Or some, because I mean,
it's weird. It's like I feel like they kind of like, and maybe Matt Reeves did this on purpose. I don't know. I think he purposely made the first movie to where it would be I almost think he made it purposely very difficult to add in anything like that, just so that it would make it to where he could kind of do his own thing with Batman. Because if you watch the movie with the idea of like there's a Wonder Woman and Superman in this world, it's like it feels so weird to watch it like that. because they really set it up as Batman's like this enigma, this thing that nobody can explain what Batman is, and he's this vigilante. They don't have like a concept of that in this world.
Yeah. Maybe not so much a god or meta. Maybe you do Oliver Queen.
Now that would make sense. I could see that. Something like an Oliver Queen, or even if you wanted to do it like
The Question.
See, now that's not bad either. I mean, anything that would fit. I think Wonder Woman and like Superman, it's a bit too much to like add into the only way I can see it working is if you really changed Wonder Woman to Superman, but that wouldn't be worth it for me, because then I feel because
if you change them, you're basically telling the fan base we don't care about the origin of these characters.
Exactly, yeah.
And is Superman going to walk around in a armored suit and he doesn't have powers, but he mimics them or something? Like, you just can't.
Well, that's why I think it was smart, and I mean, it's smart of James Gunn too. Even though I have my issues with things that are going on, but like, it's smart of both James and Zack Snyder to start their universe technically with Superman.
Yeah,
because whereas Zack's was much more of a clean start with Superman, where it was like Man of Steel is no other characters are coming over. It was like a literal new universe. But I think it started with Superman, because Superman, you started with him, you can accept anything. If you can accept that this person from another planet crash lands on Earth and he's basically like superhuman, you can accept a Wonder Woman, you can accept Aquaman. Whereas starting it with Batman and only Batman and no other reference to anything is such a weird point to start a universe, I think. As much as I love Batman, you have to kind of introduce Batman, I think, after you've established that the world is fantastical.
Yeah, because now you would have to basically find a way for Superman's hopefulness of his character to gel with this very dark. And that's pretty much the same thing Christopher Nolan was doing. Like, there's no way that there's a guy in Gotham dressing as a bat, and that's all people talk about when there's a guy flying around Metropolis.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like everybody in the Batman acts like Batman. This thing they don't understand is this craziest thing that they've ever seen. And it's like, you could introduce like a Clayface or something that's fantastical, but not a hero, not like another superhero, because I feel like it just isn't going to make a lot of sense. I don't think
they'd have to do a lot of work.
They'd have to kind of backtrack on a lot of stuff that was set up in the first movie. I think it would be a big issue, and I don't know if Matt Reeves would want to do that. No,
because I think when he signed on, he made it to where you're not going to mess with my story. We're going to put it out as is.
Yeah, because I'm so sick of like directors being like, I have this really cool idea, and WB's like, we want to mess with that a little bit. Like,
they literally just, because they gave him a 3-hour movie. Not many people at these days now gets a 3-hour movie to theaters, because it's way less screening per day.
Yeah,
and they still put it out and had faith in it.
Like Nolan, they gave him a 3-hour movie, but that's Christopher Nolan. Like Oppenheimer and Batman and all these things, it's Christopher Nolan. If he comes to you and says, I wanted, apparently Warner Brothers didn't want to do business with him, or
they nonsense. He was done.
He was like, okay, I'm going to Universal, and now. Yeah, I know WB's like, dude, we should have released Oppenheimer, man.
But then again, they released Barbie. That's going to hit $1 billion this weekend.
Yeah, but they could add 2. Imagine if both of them.
They could have had both.
And imagine if WB was the only one profiting off the Barbenheimer.
That's true. That is true.
That would have been like they would have.
They wouldn't have put it out the same time though. That's the difference.
That was smart though. Like it worked in the favor of.
It worked in the favor of both. But if Warner Brothers had both, they'd separate out. Plus, I think Nolan in his contract had it to where no other film by Universal could release 3 weeks before or after.
Yeah, which it's not like Universal's popping out like 10,000 movies every day or something. They're not Disney, But the thing that's funny is that like, if you'd have told me 10 years ago or 5 years ago that one of the biggest box office hits of the summer would be a biopic about J. Robert Oppenheimer. And like, even like people that I know that don't even watch those kind of movies would be rushing to the theater. I'd have been like, no way, dude. No freaking way. And it's a Universal movie? Nah. No.
I think what really worked in its favor, and I still have yet to see it. It's unfortunate. I'm going to try to go see it maybe tomorrow or Sunday. I don't know yet. I still have to figure out or maybe Monday. But what I think really worked in its favor is, number one, people recognize Christopher Nolan's name. Number two, it wasn't a gigantic blockbuster film, which people are pretty much tired of a lot of them at this point because there's been so many this year. And I think three, people looked at that stacked cast, holy crap, how many people? And then there's so many people that are not marketed in the trailer that's in the movie. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how many people? And then they said that too, like Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, and a few others took pay cuts to be in the movie because the budget was like lower than a bunch,
that says a lot,
because it wasn't a $200 million movie to make. And so they took pay cuts because they wanted to work with him. They didn't want to not be in the movie.
Well, I find it funny that, like, for years, the whole thing with CG was like, oh, CG is going to like revolutionize the industry. It's actually going to make making movies so much cheaper because we don't have to go out and physically build sets and redo actual effects. And it's funny because now the VFX budget is what bloats and inflates a lot of these movies' budgets. And Nolan actually used a lot more classic filmmaking techniques in this movie, and it made it cheaper than if he had done like if he had tried to do like the nuclear explosion or the atomic explosion with like CG, that would have added, God, I don't even know how much money, with how much a perfectionist Nolan is.
15-20 million with how much work would go into it.
Exactly. And then if they didn't build a lot of the sets and they did mostly blue screen and stuff like that, it's like that would have inflated the budget like crazy.
And people would know.
You could tell. And that's what I think is funny is it's like flip now where like you have VFX like making movies that should not be that expensive. Like Secret Invasion is a great example.
Yes.
That should not have cost that much. Because Secret Invasion is very on Earth. Mm-hmm. You're not like, it's all about the Skrulls infiltrating our society. And it's like an espionage kind of thing. Why did it cost $200 million to make?
And it just came out that Loki season 2 cost 143, and that's traveling through multiple universes using powers.
Exactly.
Every episode.
What costs so much in Secret Invasion? I don't get it.
Well, I think they said alone Samuel L. Jackson was $20 million. Alone.
See, and that's just, and then you've got actors out here that are like ones that don't get hardly any work.
Yeah.
As part of what the strike is about, and they're barely getting anything. Disney's like, no, we can't pay you if people stream something on a streaming service. And it's like, why?
And then The Rock got paid $50 million, the highest ever, for his Red One movie that he's coming up.
That is ridiculous. Christmas thing. And that's not going to do. Look, I'm not a hater or anything, but that ain't going to do that great. No. It's just not.
I mean, it's funny because today it came out with him talking with Kevin Hart about Black Adam.
I saw that.
Yeah, and I sat there and I responded on Twitter to a post about it because he was saying all this stuff, and I'm saying he didn't mention the fact that the film failed at the box office. It didn't even make $400 million. It didn't make its budget or marketing back. Yeah. It lost money. Also, all the drama behind the scenes of what he was trying to do, basically trying to take control of his character and everything surrounding it. He forgot to mention, and also he lied on Twitter about the actual numbers. He posted fake numbers. He didn't mention any of that. I'm like, well, of course he's not going to. But the man also did donate in the millions to the actors.
I love The Rock as like a person. The Rock's actually a really great guy, and he does a lot of good stuff. It's just, I think with the Black Adam situation, which I liked it. I actually liked the movie. I thought it was okay. Like, it's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I liked it. But it's the problem is that he kind of set himself up to fail from the beginning, where he's like, it became a meme where he's like, the hierarchy of power is about to change. And
it didn't.
And it's like, dude, you sound like you're hyping up a literal Justice League movie. It literally sounded like he was hyping up some big, huge, world-spanning event, basically. For God, how many years? I mean, that thing was, they were trying to cast Rock as Black Adam back before the DCEU was even a thing.
Well, I think he was cast back since 2007.
Yeah. Like, I remember being in high school and being like, oh, wow, The Rock's going to play Black Adam. And it's like, the movie finally comes out. He's hyped it up for a decade. And then you watch it, and it's kind of just like a generic, like,
Yeah.
you know, anti-hero. It's like a Venom. It's like on the level of like Venom, basically, is how.
You know the saying, you know, play the cards you have and don't hold them back, essentially.
Yeah.
So I know that there was a lot of discussion about how it took them to the last minute to get Henry Cavill because they just kept telling them no. If they would have just done Black Adam versus Superman as the movie,
that would have made so much money.
It would have made more money easily. It would have at least broke even.
Yeah.
But instead, I personally think they didn't really do that great in marketing, in my opinion, because they kept showing the same stuff over and over and over.
Yeah.
And they pretty much showed all the cool stuff in the trailer.
Yep.
And so when it gets to it, people are like, okay, so we don't know all these characters. There's this kid that they hit a lot in the marketing, and he's in a lot of the movie. And The Rock is playing The Rock, but just a little bit meaner.
You see, that made me mad because I love Black Adam. Like he's a really cool character. And I just feel like The Rock didn't try to do anything with it. Like he just he was playing literally his WWE heel character.
Yes.
That he played for years. He just kind of was doing that, but in a Black Adam costume. Where he's like, The Rock's the most electrifying wrestler, you know, like it's just Black Adam.
And his suit looks awesome. I'll give you that. But I mean, that's the thing people have noticed is that The Rock is pretty much playing himself.
Yeah, and the fact that he dismissed like 100 times, like when people are like, "Well, when are you going to fight Shazam?" And he's like, we'll get to Shazam. I'm not worried about Shazam." And it's like, Dwayne, Shazam is literally the character that your character is the antithesis of.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Shazam, you wouldn't.
Yeah, like literally those two characters are like, it's like Batman and Joker. It's like, Black Adam and Shazam. They're the one is a inexperienced young kid who's in the body of an adult that doesn't know what he's doing all the time. And one is a trained, he's a skilled warrior and he's powerful and he can control it. It's the whole thing. And Rock is like, nah, I'm not worried about, I'm not sweating Shazam. We'll get to him. Like,
yeah, because he wanted to get to Superman. That's what he wanted.
And it's like, I get that. I really do. And I think if you had done, like you said, like Black Adam versus Superman, and then swap out the JSA with the Justice League, have Flash and Wonder Woman be the ones, and like Batman that show up to stop Shazam in the movie. You can introduce the JSA later, but I feel like trying to introduce him in this movie while also introducing Black Adam was kind of like a bit of an issue, because I think the bigger names of the Justice League would have pulled in some more people.
Yeah, well, I think also too what's confusing is that they were pretty much saying that the JSA's been around for so long, yet we've never heard of them, and Amanda Waller's acting like she's known Hawkman this whole time. They've never been referenced before.
And it invalidates Suicide Squad a bit, the original, not James Gunn's, but the original, where it's like, well, if she knew that this team of like not the Justice League basically existed, why didn't you get a hold of them instead of trying to get Harley Quinn and like El Diablo and like I don't understand, what the idea was. I know she was like, we can pin the whole thing on him if it goes bad, but there was already a team of people that were, because that was before the Justice League when the first movie takes place. So you can forgive her for not like, there wasn't a team, but the Justice Society has apparently been around, according to the Black Adam movie, for a long time.
So it brings me to a question now, not so much about, obviously Snyder didn't have this idea, but if they wanted to have the JSA incorporated in the DCU, why was Amanda Waller not called? Because she knows a group that can stop this thing that's in Metropolis right now.
Oh my God. Yeah. That would have been,
they would have gotten slaughtered, but it's like at least something.
It's because it really is. I think the problem with the DCU from after BVS, like BVS on was even kind of with BVS too, but like there was too many cooks in the kitchen. There was too many ideas. Mm-hmm. That, if they had just let Zack do what he wanted to do, the reception, people had issues with Man of Steel, but it's Man of Steel generally, mostly I hear talked about positively. A lot of it, there's choices people didn't like Zod getting his neck snapped and stuff. But it's like if they had just let Zack do what he was going to do and didn't try to interfere every single step of the way, the critics would have went back and forth, but you would have had a much more cohesive, there wouldn't have been all these issues where like, oh, we've referenced something over here, but then this doesn't make sense. And then like, kind of how the MCU is getting now a little bit, where it's like it seems like the MCU is just kind of like throwing stuff out and introducing stuff that you're never going to hear about ever again, like,
or something that just doesn't make sense. I mean, BVS, like, it made money, and obviously people know the Ultimate Cut is the better version, and people recognize that. But the thing is, Warner Brothers was so reactionary, they got scared, and so they made Suicide Squad a different film. They panicked, and then of course everything after that. I mean, Snyder obviously didn't have a plan for the JSA, but then they're thinking, okay, so Black Adam, who can let's bring in some other characters from the JSA that we haven't seen. It's because they were just trying to find something to hopefully for it to stick. And
I don't think that, I think that ultimately, it's weird. They're trying to correct it and make it more popular, actually made people not as excited about everything, because the marketing for Black Adam, the entire time I was watching it, I'm like, and seeing the reaction of the fans, they're like, yeah, this seems cool, but like, I don't really know what's going to be like the thing that makes me want to like have to see this day one.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's just Black Adam. He does a bunch of bad stuff, and the JSA's like, hey, stop doing that, which ended up being the movie, basically.
Yeah.
They're just waggling their finger at Black Adam, and he's like, I'm a bad guy. And it's like, that's literally, yeah. I mean, they didn't even try to make it like nuanced or anything, other than the fact that, and I mean, this is going to, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be upset if I say something that happens in the movie at this point, but you had that awful reveal in the movie where he's like, it wasn't me in the beginning. It was like my son, that it was originally my son, and then he saved my life. And it's like the movie acted like that was going to be this huge thing. And I'm like, you guys literally said that in the trailer. Like, because in the first trailer, he's like, my son sacrificed his life to save me. And it's
yeah, they did. I remember something like, but then you said, I remember that was specifically in the first trailer, and like the opening few seconds.
Yeah, and they in the first like 10 seconds of the trailer, and then in the movie, they wanted to make that like this big like you're like, holy shit moment. We were like, that wasn't him in the beginning, that was his son, and he saves his life, and they make you think it is the son the whole time, and then they reveal it's actually the dad. And it's like, you literally told us that in the trailer. So now even your big reveal didn't even like do anything. So now
also, I think they changed the death of the son, because I'm pretty sure in the trailer they show different footage that's not in the movie.
Yeah, well, half the trailer wasn't in the movie. Like there were some shots in there where you're like, oh, what is this? And then you go see the movie and you're like,
and then they bring forth like these 7 demons that are in like this realm, and I'm sitting there going, why are we not seeing any of that? Like that looks cool as shit. Why are we cutting away from this? Because like they're like these creepy designs. I'm like, this is badass. Like, show us more.
Well,
and
I want to see that.
Yeah, and done.
Well, and then the fact that they're like they cast for, I mean, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate.
Perfect.
My God, perfect casting. But then they're like, oh yeah, here's Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Now he's not Dr. Fate anymore.
And he even said, I don't know if I'm going to come back. And people were like, oh, he's going to die, isn't he? Yeah, he was literally telling people in interviews, I don't know.
He was like, just watch the movie. That's what he said.
And everyone knows what that means.
Yeah, he was like, well, just watch the movie. Okay, you die in the movie. We get it. Like, and it made me so mad because like he's so good as Dr. Fate, and you watch the movie and you're like, instead of a Black Adam movie, I kind of would have not minded the Dr. Fate movie.
Dr. Fate, a Dr. Fate movie.
Like have Dr. Fate and then have the JSA feature in it. That would, because I loved Aldous Hodge as Hawkman. Thought he was awesome. I liked the kid that looks like Mark Ruffalo. That was playing Adam.
Yeah.
He was really good.
Or Adam Smasher. Yeah.
Adam Smasher. Yeah. It's just like the whole movie. I'm like, dude, Dr. Fate is the coolest freaking thing in this movie. And like the scene where he holds Black Adam down with like all the different like versions of him, I'm like, dude, come on, man.
I think they knew that he was the best part of the movie.
Yeah,
I think they knew, because they even had that one shot where he's just sitting down watching the fight go down between Hawkman and Black Adam. He's just sitting in the apartment, just sits down, just like, all right, we're gonna wait here because
let me get a drink.
Let's gonna chill, whatever.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's something that like I hope that going forward with and I'm not one of the people. I don't want the DCU to fail. Like what James. I don't want it to fail. I love DC. Yeah. I want to see good movies, but for me, I just hope that we can get to a point. That's why the not recasting thing is kind of bothering me, because I'm like, if you're gonna start a new universe, just start a new universe.
Yep.
Quit bringing. I know you cast John Cena as Peacemaker, and I know that you like Amanda Waller, but you're just general audiences are not on Twitter all the time, like half of us are. They're not reading articles. They're gonna go see this movie sight unseen, or having just seen a trailer, and then they're gonna see like Peacemaker and like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman show up, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, so this is part of like the old thing."
The thing is, the Gal Gadot thing's gonna hurt it. Because Gal Gadot was featured in the marketing for Shazam 2. Then eventually they featured her in. Well, I mean, they didn't officially feature in The Flash, but everyone knew she was in The Flash.
Yeah,
and it hurt the movie. And so when people see if they have Gal Gadot, if they do a Wonder Woman 3 with Gal Gadot, if it's true, it's not going to be as successful as people think it will be.
No.
Because there are a portion of the audience that are just done with the continuity that was established.
Yeah,
the first movie is the exception, because that was back when that was the first Wonder Woman movie after BVS. It didn't exactly hurt it, but people were like, okay, Wonder Woman on the big screen.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
The second film, of course, Pandemic, so people still didn't like it regardless when it came out. That's the problem. It's tainted.
Yeah. And I think, anytime, and he's not, it'd be one thing if it was just Gal Gadot. He's bringing over literally like so much stuff, and even his stuff that he did with Peacemaker is still attached to the previous universe,
because you have Ezra and you have Jason Momoa show up at the end,
and basically Ben Affleck's Batman and Henry's Superman. And it's like, I think that if he was gonna, if he wants to start a new universe, just start a new universe. If you want John Cena in it, cast him as somebody else.
Yeah,
he's great. He's great as Peacemaker. I get it, but like, go a different direction, because now he's probably going to keep Ezra. Honestly, I think he's going to keep Ezra.
I think after that, I think the ending of the movie implies no.
Really?
Yeah.
But see, the ending of the movie doesn't really imply anything, really, because I think
it's implying Ezra's stuck because he screws up the timeline.
But he's the Flash.
Yes, but I think what they're implying, based on the conversation with Bruce about the spaghetti. And then I refer to also back, I'm not sure if you've seen the show, the Flash TV show. There's a scene with Jay Garrick talking to Barry, and it's about the cup. And what he does is he takes the cup and says, "You see, this is the timeline." And then he breaks the cup. And then he puts it back. It's like, so you can put it back together. You can put the timeline back together, the cup back together, but then you see the cracks.
It's always going to be.
It's always going to be messed up. So I think what they're implying is, so he lets his mom pass. He then changes to where his father gets acquitted. And that causes a change in the timeline to where we have Clooney. I think what they're implying is, no matter what, if Barry decides, okay, at that point, okay, I'm going to get to where my dad can't get acquitted so that we can get Affleck back, something else is going to change to where it's not going to be exactly. So I feel like he's stuck in the pocket timeline he can't get out of.
That's a possibility, and you're
thinking.
Yeah. And you may be right about that. And I mean, I don't like, as much as I, aside from any drama, I didn't mind Ezra's Flash, and it's just, I just think that if he's going to commit to the new universe, that it just needs to be completely new universe. Have David Cornswet as Superman be your first like theatrical film, and because see, now he's confusing everybody. Where he's like, oh, okay, Blue Beetle is technically the first, like Zolo's Blue Beetle is technically the first character in the DCU, but his movie isn't. And I was like, what sense does that make? Like, if he's the first character, what is his, like, I don't understand. Like,
I think it's because the movie was made without any connection to anything else. So they're playing it up to where, okay, so we can connect. Maybe the story is to where we don't necessarily have to reference it in the future if we bring him in. Because they could just easily, okay, we're going to bring his Blue Beetle over without the movie, so we can just kind of say it did maybe not happen. But if the movie tanks, we can just say, okay, but James already said that this is our Blue Beetle. So it's gonna be hard to backtrack that if the movie bombs, which
that's
I
what
think
I'm
it
saying.
will, and that's not because of not because of Zolo, it's because of the people are done.
I love him. He's a great dude. He's super talented. I went back and looked at some other stuff that he's done, and great guy. And I want him to succeed. But unfortunately, anything connected to the especially like post JL 2017, that's when the real damage I think to the brand started. People just have a bad taste in their mouth after that. And
Aquaman was the only exception, making $1 billion.
Yeah.
Everything else has been bad. And I think the only thing that could save Blue Beetle is the fact that so far, and I believe the director has confirmed this, there is no DCEU connections. That's probably why they're saying.
And if there was, I definitely think that at this point, it's James Gunn has had it cut out. Like if there was any kind of like mention of like an event that happened in, he could probably mention Superman. He probably we already know he'll mention Batman because his dad calls Batman a fascist.
Yeah,
in
but
the trailer,
as long as they don't show
just
like
Batman,
as long as they don't like Shazam show a Batarang or show like a shirt or a poster or something that implies,
and that was probably cut out. They could do like Shazam was weird because Shazam actually confused me when I first saw it, the first one, because they specifically show like the Metropolis, the newspaper thing, and then they show Ben Affleck's literal like there's no other Batman that has a Batarang that looks like Ben Affleck's. And then at the end of the movie, Henry's Superman shows up. But then when Shazam is in the store, and they're fighting with what's his name, Savannah?
Yes,
Savannah. Yeah, when he's fighting Savannah, all the toys in the store look nothing like Ben Affleck's Batman or Henry Cavill's Superman. They're like generic like Batman toys, like in just a gold with like the gold logo and all that. And it's even Kevin Conroy's voice when he throws the Batman. He's like, "I'm Batman."
I wonder if that's like a thing to where like they were trying to like do like toy versions of this hero where they just
had no idea. Like,
they just wanted to do something, maybe.
Yeah, so they just kind of like, well, it's the same thing as it's in Logan when he pulls out he's like, this stuff's not real. It's a comic book, like, and it's the which little did we know he would later actually wear that suit.
He thought he would never do it.
Yeah, like. But I mean, that's what's funny about it is like you just see you could see implications of these characters in Blue Beetle, but not anything that directly references the old DCEU, which I thought he would have done with the Flash. To be honest with you, I really thought in Flash he was gonna like by the end of the movie, which I guess he kind of did, but the whole movie there was no way he was gonna be able to separate the Flash movie completely from. The previous stuff, because it's so much of that movie hinges on literal events that happened before. And
literally, you have that opening scene with Batfleck and Gal Gadot showing up. Like, I don't know how, like, because you can cut the ending out, like the ending they had, but you can't do all that because you'd have to rework and reshoot the intro leading into when he decides to go back in time.
Yeah, and see, and I really thought they kind of like missed an opportunity because the doing that whole thing with like resetting the timeline and having Flash reset it would have been such a cool way to lead into what James was doing, but they kind of just instead of doing that, they were like, oh no, we're just gonna have him end up in like a universe where Clooney's Batman, and it's like, which to me, it's like they implied that Keaton, the movie didn't even make sense anyway because they implied that Keaton's Batman was the exact same one from the 89 movie and Returns. But see, that version of Gotham they made Gotham in this version look like it does in Affleck's in the Snyderverse. Where in Tim Burton's Gotham, it was wacky, man. Like there was like, it looked like comic book Gotham where there's like gargoyles everywhere and like weird, like blimps flying around and So when you see it in the Flash, it's like, well, this doesn't look anything like the mansion looks the exact same, but then none of the other stuff is the same. So it's such a weird. They're like, yeah, this is the same continuity, but also like different, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, I think they were like, I wonder if it was like a thing where they had more of a reference to the exact like Batman it is. But maybe there was some cutting because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that was cut from this movie.
Oh yeah,
it changed. So
I think WB had a bigger hand in it. That's why I don't blame Andy Muschietti for this movie because I think WB pulled. And that's why a lot of, I see a lot of like hardcore Snyder fans. I consider myself a pretty hardcore Snyder fan, but I see a lot of people getting mad at Andy, and I'm like, guys, I think with this situation, we may have a situation almost like a Zack Snyder situation where WB stepped in and was like, no, we don't like this. Like,
yeah, because the regime changed. Like, yeah. The regime changed while they were still working.
This movie had two different hands in it. Yeah. It had Hamada changes and stuff, which that's confirmed. We know that Walter Hamada had like some changes for the Flash, and then James Gunn came in and gave notes on it and changed it some too, for better or worse. We don't know what he changed, but like everything he changed. But so you've had two different regimes that have messed with this movie.
Did the two that are running the film division, I forget their names,
DeLuca and
I wonder if they have any. I wonder if they had any.
I think everybody. I mean, that's unfortunate about the movies. I think it kind of got hot potatoed around, and they were like, "Oh, what do you want to change?" I don't know what, And James Gunn's like, "Well, we can't have that original ending because that's something that Hamada wanted, which was like the Crisis event with Affleck,
which would have been insane because they released behind the scene images of it. I'm like, why would you put that out there? Because it's not."
Well, that was one of the things. I finished that shot. Like I took the green screen thing and like finished it because I just wanted to like see, and it's like, and they set it up in the movie kind of too because they had his screens. He was supposed to see Batfleck on all those screens in his apartment. Mm-hmm. It was going to be Batfleck sending him a message from a different universe. Yeah, being like, Barry, we need your help, and it was going to be cool because it was like a mirroring of when Barry shows up to Bruce in the Batcave, but it's Bruce showing up.
Lois is the king.
Yeah, it was going to kind of be like that, like almost like a nod to Snyder, which, it's funny that I see so many Snyder fans that wish we had that ending now because I'm like, you guys realize that was a Hamada thing, right? Like, we hate Walter Hamada. Why are you like, man?
And the thing Hamada is, like, plan. They make these changes because you don't want to give the people get their hopes up or give them expectations, something that's not going to happen.
Black Adam.
Yeah, because literally what they did was they had that one ending. The first ending was Sasha and Keaton, and they were implying because they were going to plan to do another Keaton Batman Beyond type project.
Yeah,
and then that all fell apart. So you don't want to keep people say, "Oh, well, they should have kept that." Like, no, they can't, because if you do that, people are assuming Sasha will continue Supergirl, which people are hoping that somehow James Gunn brings her into Supergirl. I don't know how that's going to work, but
knowing his track record with bringing over random people from the other universe,
I feel like she deserves more of another chance because she literally just didn't get enough to do in the movie, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, and it breaks my heart because she was so excited to be Supergirl. I mean, she literally cried about it and was like, "This is such an honor."
And she had to carry the press junket because Ezra couldn't do interviews, and so now, she had to do a lot of the interviews.
If she's not coming back, we base her Supergirl existed from a period of like she literally puts on the suit, and then she's around for in the time frame of the movie, like not even 24 hours.
Yep.
It gets killed.
Yeah, multiple times,
like very viscerally, multiple times, and then just she gets left for dead, and that's it. We never see her Supergirl ever again, and she just dies unceremoniously like 5 times.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, that's like just man, that's, oh God.
So I'm hoping they find a way to have her as Supergirl because we know they're doing a Supergirl movie. I don't know how they're going to make that work. But
it's the same thing with Peacemaker because he's already confirmed basically. I mean, James Gunn himself has even said, I want, like Peacemaker is going to continue. So it's like, he's already working on a season 2 of it. Like, so it's like, here's my question. When Peacemaker shows up in season 2, is it going to be a Peacemaker that none of the events of the first season even happened? Like, I mean, like, because then what was the point of bringing Peacemaker back if he's a totally different?
Yeah.
Because he did a lot of character growth in that show. I mean, like, so and general audiences are not going to be able to follow the fact that this is a different, like, reimagining of Peacemaker when it's the exact same person in the exact same outfit. Like, I really don't understand the thought process.
And is Peacemaker going to call it the fact that the breakaway kid or whatever his name was, Nathan Fillion, is now Guy Gardner?
Exactly, and like and that version of Peacemaker knows like Henry Cavill's version of Superman, Ben Affleck's version of Batman. When David Cornsweet shows up, is he going to be like, "You're what? Is he going to acknowledge it, or is he just going to act like that never happened?
I think it's going to be a thing to where if you bring people over, they have to make it show a visual thing to explain they don't remember anything.
But then it's like, then you're acknowledging the old universe.
Yes.
Which that's the point should have been to completely wipe the slate clean.
Yeah.
Because that's what Zack did with Man of Steel. You know, a lot of people were actually, I remember back in like 2011, when they first announced Man of Steel, there was speculation that Man of Steel was going to take place because Christopher Nolan was producing it in the Bale universe, that Henry Cavill was going to be the Superman of the Batman Dark Knight universe. And then it came out later, and Zack was like, no, this has, even though Christopher Nolan's producing it, this is a completely fresh start take on Superman. No connections. And I think that actually helped a lot, because then they announced that before the movie ever came out. And I think a lot of people were like, okay, cool. We're not going into this with any like previous baggage or any kind of like connections or biases or anything like that. They were like, I'm ready for something new. Whereas with this, you've got so many freaking characters that are from the old universe that, I've got people, I've got friends and stuff that don't keep up with, and family that don't keep up with this stuff. They're going to go see these movies in theater, and they're going to see like, well, there's Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I thought you said this was a different, like...
Yeah, and so if they were to do that Wonder Woman 3, what are they going to do? Are they going to have it connect to the first two?
It's telling that she called it... See, people are saying, well, Gal's probably means that she's going to produce a Wonder Woman. She said two things that basically confirm that she does not mean she's helping Gunn produce a Wonder Woman. She said, one, I love playing Wonder Woman in the very beginning of that question. And two, she called it Wonder Woman 3.
Yeah, and there was a thing where people were going back to when Gunn was being asked a lot of questions about, you're booting Gal Gadot and you're booting Henry Cavill, and he's like, where did we say we were booting Gal? Where does it come from? And then other references to things where he was responding about Gal specifically. And so the implication is that he's not booting her. But then there was something that came out from a scooper, as we know, scoopers, you know how that is. Yeah. But this person said that it is Wonder Woman 3, but it will address certain things in the past, but not exactly. And I'm thinking now it's even more confusing, because I would think if you're going to have Gal continue, have it to where you clearly establish in the marketing and in the opening of the movie, this is not the same Wonder Woman.
Different outfit, everything.
Yeah. If they don't give her a different outfit,
oh my God,
that's going to be so people are going to get really frustrated.
Well, because if they give her a different outfit, then they need to do that for Peacemaker. They need to do that for anybody that carries over. They need to look completely different. Maybe have Gal have like short hair and like a different suit or something.
Have her have the wavy hair.
Yeah, or
the wavy curly hair.
Something.
Yeah, and then the color scheme needs to be different, because I think isn't in certain comics where it's like the red and silver.
Yeah.
Instead of red. Yeah, do red and silver.
In New 52, she's got a kind of a really reimagined modern take. Funny enough, like Gal's outfit actually has more in common with like Golden Age Wonder Woman than it does like New 52.
And we know how Gunn is, especially with now promoting comics, heavily promoting the comics. So I would assume he's going to be inspired, if they're going to continue with Gal, to change the suit and have it pay homage to a certain era of comic. Yeah. And if they announce Wonder Woman and then a subtitle, they're going to also showcase a comic attached to it, and that will give us an idea. Okay, this is what they're doing.
Either do Wonder Woman in a subtitle, or just call it Wonder Woman. One of the two things, because then you're not going into it. There's already a movie called Wonder Woman, so you're like, oh, this is a different,
because Superman Legacy, Brave and the Bold.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think it's going to have a subtitle.
Yeah, probably,
because it's not called Batman and Robin, which obviously we already have that. But
honestly, Wonder Woman Rebirth would not be a bad
title. Oh, you broke my fucking mind. Oh my God,
Woman Rebirth, and just have it be
fucking perfect.
Have it be about her like. And that literally states right there, new version.
Oh my God, that just cracked my brain. I didn't even think about, you take the Rebirth comic run that reset shit.
Yeah.
Reset Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman Rebirth.
Yep. But there, I mean, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think that's
better than Wonder Woman starting over.
Yeah,
Wonder Woman. Let's try again.
We promise this is a new version.
Wonder Woman origin, like Wolverine.
But the fact that she said 3 worries me.
I'm hoping. Yeah, my hope is that they're implying it's her third Wonder Woman movie, and that doesn't mean Wonder Woman. I mean, look, James Gunn. Hopefully, he's smarter, because what they have been doing is giving at least titles that are different. Because see, what he did was as well. Hey, it's not called Green Lanterns; it's called Lanterns. We're not calling it Green Lantern.
Yeah,
because obviously it's more than one. Obviously, with something like Amanda Waller, they're not calling it Task Force X; they're calling it Waller. You know, something that's not been done before. They're not calling it. They're not calling it Suicide Squad for Amanda Waller's show. So, and obviously, Swamp Thing. They say it's Swamp Thing, but I bet they'll probably have some.
Man, that show though, I don't know how they're going to top that show, man. That show was so good.
You can blame my state for the tax issue. Why it got canceled.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was my state they shot in, and they screwed up the tax forms, and that's what got it shut down.
I thought they filmed that in North Carolina.
They did.
You're in the same state as me?
Oh. Well, by the way, you were at GalaxyCon?
I was.
I was literally about to go. We had other plans, but the plans got canceled.
I didn't realize that
yeah, I would have went. However, what I wanted to go for, which would have been really awkward now past the point, but I wanted to get a photo shoot with 2 people that was sold out both times on Sunday. Grant Gustin and Stephen Amell. If I would have gotten that, I would have went. It would have been awkward after the fact, but still, I would have. That was I was wanting, and it was. We looked weeks ago, and they were both sold out. So fine, whatever. But I could have went. I could have went.
Dude, I didn't realize you were in North Carolina. That's crazy.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
me too. Yeah, because I was like, I'm so used to going on Dave's show, and he'll be like, "Oh, here's the time," and I always have to like Google like, okay, what is that in Eastern?
Yeah.
And I was like so happy that this was 9 p.m. I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, that's the thing. He moved up his time, thankfully.
It was so hard for me to be on there.
Because before it's like, okay, he's starting. It's like, and like whenever I was like the main guest for the 2 episodes I was main guesting on, it's like starting at 11. I'm like, oh boy, and he does like 5-hour shows. I'm like,
oh yeah,
God, I can't.
And see, the weekends I'm with my fiance, so like it's always hard for me on Fridays normally. But it's always nice when it's the same time zone as me, because it's like, yeah, that's crazy, dude. That's insane. Yeah, I didn't realize. I knew you were probably in the South, but I didn't know, like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been here since I was 3. Yes, 3. So
okay. I was born here, so it's like, yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know how much long I'll be here though, because my wife wants to move out because it's too expensive here. But
I feel the same way.
It's too expensive because this is a very tiny house. I've been here since 2017. We don't have to pay rent, thankfully, but getting a house,
more room.
Getting a house like that we want around here is like $500,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah. See, my thing is I've always wanted to move up to like New York area, and
she wants to go back home to Michigan.
see, Michigan's not bad.
No,
New York though.
Mm-hmm.
New York, I don't know why I'm thinking that, because I love New York City, and I wanted to live somewhat close to that because I do photography, and that's like such a photography like mecca in New York City. Mm-hmm. But then I look at the prices of like an apartment in New York City, which almost costs the same as like a house here. So I'm like, okay, no.
and you're not paying to own. You're renting.
Yeah,
you're not owning
exactly.
Yeah,
and it was such a, I don't know. Have you been out west, Eddie?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My first time going out west was the end of last year, and I was, I've been in the South my whole life, and I've lived here, and I've been up to Canada like when I was a kid, but like going out west for the first time, going to LA was like complete culture shock for me. I'm so used to how things are here, and going out there and seeing the price of like gas and stuff, and I'm like, dude, I have it good over here.
I remember I went to San Diego to meet up with a bunch of other reactors. We had this whole thing planned out, and I remember there was a gas station next to the hotel I was staying at, and we readily just have this thing to where, okay, you get a plastic bag, or you get a bag whenever you buy stuff at a gas station. She said, okay, it's a dime for a plastic bag. I'm like, what? Ooh. And she's like, it doesn't, that's nothing. Yeah. But like, really got to pay for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to pay for it. And then I was like, no, I'm okay. Because like I thought that's like a thing readily available. Apparently, it's not a thing that you just give out. I don't know. Yeah. And it was very different. I mean, the city is massive there, San Diego. It's like just crazy. I mean, I live near a bigger city, but obviously I'm further enough away to where the traffic's not too bad. But like there, it's a nightmare. So they have to drive it.
Yeah. See, I ended up, I moved recently in like 2019, and I now live out. I mean, you know how North Carolina is. Like I live out in the middle of nowhere, like gotcha. Literally, and it was so weird to like go to LA and be in LA and like, oh dude, this is just like there's so much traffic and people and but all the cool events happen out there. So I'm always screwed. Like when we were like, yeah, we're doing like a meetup, or like what you were saying, like we're doing this thing, and they're like, okay, I'm in this part of California, I'm in Nevada, I'm here, and then they're like, oh, Aaron, where are you at? And I'm like, oh, I'm in North Carolina. I'm in the middle of nowhere, dude.
I'm out here, yeah.
Yeah, I bounced between here and then I grew up a little bit in West Virginia, up in that area, and it's just
my dad for a couple of years was living there.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And I would go to West Virginia during the summers.
Yeah, I'd spend summer. Same here. I would spend summers up in West Virginia, and
every other weekend.
And now that's in the middle of nowhere. Like that's out there. Like
we lived on a street called Tornado Road or something.
That's ominous.
Yeah, it was really strange because like around the time when I started freaking out about tornadoes is when I would start going up there every other weekend.
Yeah.
Friday pickup, Sunday drive back, whatever. It's like, and there'd be like really bad storms up there. I'm like, freaking out. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, more in common than we thought. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just telling my fiance that I've been watching your channel for like quite a long time.
Oh.
I subscribed to you like forever ago, and it was so bizarre when I was like realizing we kind of like knew the same people on the YouTube and like Twitter areas, and I was like, that's so weird because you don't you watch so many channels and you consume content, and then you realize like, dude, I have so much in common with so many people, and I don't even realize it. Like, but yeah, I remember. I think the first video I saw of yours was, I think you were reacting to. Maybe it was the Suicide Squad trailer. I think
the first one,
the Comic-Con teaser.
Oh yeah, because Warner Brothers had to officially release it because it kept leaking.
Yeah, and then I remember because in the video you were like, "I'm watching this right now. It came out, but I'm just going ahead and putting this out or whatever." And I remember watching that way back. I mean, 2016. And then recently I've seen you on Twitter and stuff, and I'm like, oh, and you were on Dave's show, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, same thing happened with Paul from Heavy Spoilers. Yeah. I like watched his channel for years, and then randomly we just started talking, and then I realized we had mutual friends, and it's so weird how many connections you make and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, the Dave thing was a strange one because Eric Z, I think his name is. Yeah, he had been on my streams before, commented on videos, and all of a sudden he randomly sent a thing on Twitter saying, because I think David said something about, hey, if you want to see somebody on the show, let me know. So Eric had tagged me, and then all of a sudden David followed me, messaged me. He's like, hey, so Eric said, then he checked out my channel, and I've known about him for a while because I saw his videos. I remember the one where he freaked out over where Snyder posted on Vero the alter black suit Superman. Like, this is what my Superman would look like. And I remember that video, him losing his mind over it. Yeah. So it was so strange. But then as soon as it got on the show, it's like
everybody's chill and friends.
Yeah.
And it's just, And that's what's so cool about it, man, is like I've made so many friends through like social media and like especially Twitter. I've made like tons of Twitter friends. And with Dave, I was actually the first time I was ever on his streams was his Patreon streams. I subscribed to him on Patreon, and he invites some Patreon people on every month, and I was on there, and like we had such a good conversation. I was like, man, I really I wouldn't mind being on the main show. And this was back forever ago. I didn't have like a Twitter following at all, really. Yeah. And eventually he had me on the vodka stream, and I was like, this is like literally so much fun because I'm talking to like-minded people, and it's just we're having a good time, we're talking, and since then it's been, you know, I pop on every so often and just kind of shoot the shit, and then I disappear for like 3 months, and then I just show up again.
Yeah, same thing here, because there's like times where like, I won't hear from him. All of a sudden it's like, hey, you want to join? Yeah. It's like I try to come back on, and it's like it's funny because like my wife's out of town, and I told him last week because hey, you want to come on, and like I couldn't. It's like, oh, sorry, I can't. I told him like, but next week I'm available. He still has that yet. I don't think he'll message me tonight. I'm like, it's the time I actually can do it. My wife's not here. I can actually go on the show, and he hasn't messaged me, and it's fine.
My schedules, I like times that I do stuff is weird, and like I said, I'm with my fiance's on the weekend, so I don't want to ever take time away from her and stuff.
Of course not.
But especially, you know, like if it's a really long time, because I get to talking, and like I just. Especially about comic book movies and TV shows and stuff. Yeah,
because you said you only had an hour, and now we're an hour and a half in.
See, so. I get to talking. You know, you bring up Star Trek, I'll be here for another hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen it yet. All I'm gonna say is I've been sent the screener for the finale. That's all I'm gonna say.
The Strange New Worlds finale.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you
got the email today.
Oh man, see, that's my flaw. Is like. I've built up a following on Twitter, but I literally have 800 subscribers on YouTube, and I just don't.
I gotta thank Andy, who's my co-host, because he runs Multiverse of Color, the website, and he had reached out via me and everything in the site, and then we got the access and all that. Now, before I got access through someone else for Netflix and stuff, so I was able to get some of that. But for this, it's like I had tried about Paramount before, didn't really hear much back, but as soon as he reached out with his professional email, it's like, here you go. And I binged through those first 6 episodes quickly.
Yeah.
And it's like awesome. And then I watched the night before it aired, I watched the Subspace Rhapsody.
I haven't seen that one yet. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes, I watched the night before it came out. And I think I'll probably watch I don't know when I'll watch the finale. I'm probably going to watch it sometime this weekend to get my
I loved the crossover episode.
I haven't seen Lower Decks, but that was a fun episode. It was fun.
Fantastic.
It was fun because it was because Jack Quaid brought a new type of humor to the episode that we haven't seen on the show before.
And the best animation to live action translation of a character I think I've ever seen. Like he's definitely the same character between the anime. As somebody that has watched Lower Decks, like it's like you could animate his parts in that episode and it would fit perfectly.
Is Lower Decks worth watching?
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. It's honestly, a lot of people just describe it as like Star Trek Rick and Morty, but because it's kind of animated the same way, but it's, especially if you know like some lore stuff, it makes some deep cuts like humor wise, and it's Star Trek's my like ultimate thing. I love DC and Marvel, but Star Trek's my thing. So
yeah, it definitely was interesting to kind of see and how they handled the transition. I also like the ending of the animated Strange New Worlds crew, because I wasn't expecting to see that, because like I knew they had some animation from the actual Lower Decks and then the crossover. I knew that, but I didn't know about the ending. Like, and then they even address it. Do you guys feel different?
Well, and the implication that the only reason that the Lower Decks crew is animated is because they're drinking those drinks that she makes. I'm like, so they're just like toasted like all the time in that show.
And it just makes them feel different. They're just like,
what is going on?
At least they found like an addressing point for it.
Well, that was, going to GalaxyCon. I was actually only going there to shoot because I booked like shoots to do on Friday and some cosplay shoots. And I ended up, I told my fiance, I was like, we kind of have to go at least Friday. I was like, because she'd never been to like a big con. And I was like, we at least have to go today so you can we can see some stuff. And then I remembered seeing on Twitter that Terry Matalas was going to be there.
Yeah.
And after watching season 3 of Picard, Terry Matalas became like one of my favorite people on this planet, because I was like,
of course, yes,
dude, you did the impossible. And I told her, I was like, so he's here, and I'm like, the only thing I'm spending money on is I'm getting a photo with Terry Matalas, and I just want to thank him for season 3 of Picard. And so that's literally what I did. Walked right to his booth, and I was like, dude, you are the man. Like, that was amazing. I asked him a couple questions, and then I got a picture with him. And I was like, I just had to come up here and tell you that in person. Like, and he was like so thankful. He was like, dude, yeah, of course, man. Like, you know, and he ended up following me later on Twitter, which I thought was really cool. Cause I was like, I've tagged him in so much like art, like fan art and stuff. But yeah, that was how much I liked Picard season 3.
I remember watching episode 9 and when they go into, you know, when they turn all the lights on and they're there, dude. And the way that the actual color tone of the show shifted at that moment, because
so like a TNG aesthetic.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, and I literally rewatched that over and over and over on YouTube. Someone uploaded an HD version of the whole scene. I'm like, this, in the music, everything just works. And then of course, like some people say, you know, they kind of rushed. I don't think they rushed it. I feel like
no, me either.
We're building up to this, and it's not so much about the Queen. It's more about his son. That's the main point of it.
Yeah, it
was so good. And then the fact that they didn't rush getting Data back or this new version.
Oh, they did that actually so perfectly.
They gave us some time.
And I love the line that Picard says to him, where he's like, you know, when I last spoke to you, you talked about wanting to experience death and to finally understand mortality. He's like, I hope that what we've done here doesn't betray that. Yes. And the response that Data gives back, where he's like, the old me is resting peacefully, but this version of me would rather be no place else than with my friends. And I think,
that's Terry going, I know what previously happened.
Yeah.
We're addressing it because we're not trying to pretend it didn't happen.
But we're moving forward.
Yes, and the thing is, we cannot do a proper reunion of these characters. That's probably going to be the ending of this reunion without Data.
That was my thing. As I was like, that's great that they've got like lore in it. I was like, that's great. Yeah. So Brent Spiner has some role. But I was like, dude, come on, man. Like,
but then they gave Data like a little bit of emotion. They actually gave more. So he's able to be more.
Yeah, and he jokes with Geordi where he's like, Geordi's like, you just said a contraction, and Data's like, no, I didn't. And then he's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, he's questioning everything, and and they've always like had to find ways to explain his aging, and I think they did the best version of that here.
Yes,
to where this is
instead of trying to mask it constantly, because in all the movies they were like, how much makeup can we put on Brent Spiner?
Yeah, because in that opening scene, or at least season 1 of Picard, where they're not really addressing it, but he's like sitting across from Patrick Stewart and Brent Spiner. It's just clearly they're trying to hide the age. It's like, guys,
come on,
you can't. Like, it's so obvious. Picard, it makes sense. He's aging. Yeah. He's aging normally. Data, so I thankfully in this, they gave a good explanation when they introduced this new version, and then they slowly go through the motion.
He's in the same kind. He's in a human based body. It's an android body, but it's completely organic that ages normally. So it's like perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah,
love that. You know, he just did that whole show was like pitch perfect, I think, and it made me want a Worf spinoff, honestly. Like, I kind of want to.
No, at this point, I just want everything. I want a season 4. I want more. I just want more story. You know,
it's part of me wants that, but then the ending is so perfect where it ends with like it's panning up and they're playing poker, and that's kind of how that's kind of how it ended in All Good Things. And I'm like, I don't know. I want more, but that's selfish me.
And I don't blame you, because the way they end in All Good Things, they don't show the card game.
No, this just satisfies you and finally shows you.
And I don't know, because I think Terry mentioned something like they had shot 40 something minutes of them. I wonder, I don't know if that's released, but they should release it. Just release
it. He said that he shot 40 minutes of it because it was literally, they didn't want to turn off the camera because it was literally them. Eventually, they just weren't their characters anymore. They were just having fun as friends. Yeah. And that's why you hear the music playing instead of like their actual dialogue, because they were just like shooting the shit like friends.
Yeah, like, because I bet that's the last thing they shot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think Terry said that was the final. They got them all together, did the card scene,
and that makes sense
to cap it off.
Because you don't want to shoot your final scene for the show, and it's something that happens, say, like an episode prior or whatever.
Like they're getting attacked or something, and that's the last scene. That it is impressive that they got all the footage for the Enterprise D bridge in like a day and a half or 2 days.
Yeah.
Like he said that literally they had 2 days to shoot on it, and then that was it. And I'm like, that's impressive, dude. Like with the amount of stuff that happens and the emotion, to do that in 2 days is
that just shows their professionalism.
Yeah,
all of them, how they can easily
play so well off each other.
Oh yeah,
like that cast is just I want more. I'm like, I want more, but then I think about like they did. Terry purposely ended this in a way that like it's like saying goodbye to them.
Well, I think they should do a spinoff, but the way they set it up with Q at the end,
Legacy.
That's what you do. You don't do season 4 Picard. You do Star Trek Legacy. Yeah,
and Terry said that actually. He was like, we want to do Star Trek Legacy with Jack Crusher being like the main character, having Q in it, being on the Enterprise with Seven and Raffi, and then you can have some of the TNG characters like show back up.
Yeah.
And have them make like cameos and stuff. And I'm like, that's a good like middle ground, so that you get more of the characters, but the TNG show is over.
Yeah, because it's like because it literally is the new generation, the next generation.
Which Q even says that he's like, I never thought the next generation would think so close-minded, and I'm like, oh, he said the thing. Roll credits, guy. They literally roll the credits. Yeah,
and the fact is, dude, they shot that while they were shooting season 3. Like they literally, I think it was the scene where Picard confronts Jack about like him losing control or whatever, and he's in that room. They literally changed it up, gave him a new suit, and then had him walk in and do the
whole thing was shot at the same time as season 2.
Oh yeah, they shot it back to back.
Which here's the thing, unpopular. Well, I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but I loved season 1 of Picard. I did not like season 2.
Because season 2 is the whole time travel,
and it was just all in like the 21st century.
Yeah,
and it was a bunch of like I was like, I didn't really care. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think season 1 was more interesting because you didn't have to worry about this whole like, okay, we're on Earth. Like, and that's what really frustrates me.
When they tease you with like, oh my god, the future, we're in the farthest forward in like the natural progression of the timeline that we've seen, if you don't count like the jump ahead in Discovery and stuff. But like, this is organically the farthest that we've gotten without having time travel. Yeah. So I was like, I want to live in that. I want to see like what that's like, the 25th century. And, in season 2, they did it some in season 1, and then season 2, because season 1, Patrick Stewart has even said, like, he didn't want a bunch of, like, the Federation Starfleet stuff. He didn't want them all in, like, the suits. And then I think he kind of came around by season 3 and was like, okay. Like,
yeah, because you're bringing all together. I think season 1 works because it's a very different type of story for, like, at least in terms of like a full-fledged arc for a season versus like episodes that kind of start and stop and then move to the next thing. Yeah. But yeah, season 2 just didn't work. I honestly, at first I was concerned about the time travel with Lon Noonan Singh and James T. Kirk, because I don't like when they do those kind of stories. I'm like, oh crap. And then I actually ended up overall liking
that was a good episode.
Liking it better than I thought. But season 2,
it just didn't make any sense, because as a lifelong Trekkie, I watched that episode with her and Kirk, and I was like, I sounded like such a nerd. I was like, this doesn't make any sense, because the eugenics wars in the Star Trek timeline happened in the 1990s, and Khan was part of that. So by this point in the timeline, Khan would not be a child. So my thing has always been, they wanted to change so much in Discovery. They wanted to like change so many things about the Federation and like the ship designs and all that. I was like, just make it in its own timeline. Just do like they did with the Kelvin movies and make it its own thing. The movies
did it, yeah.
I was like, because like, but they hammered in like constantly. Nope, this is the prime timeline. This is where it fits into everything else. And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense though. If you want to make all these changes, you're not doing like a Star Wars right now, where Star Wars was like, with The Force Awakens, they're like, this is a direct continuation of what you saw before. It's like Discovery started off out of the gate, not that. I mean, like just nothing about it looked like TOS. So it was like, which I like Discovery, but I'm not going to lie to myself and say that you could watch Discovery and then immediately watch TOS and it would make any freaking sense. So I'm just glad that in Strange New Worlds they have went back to the Klingons actually looking like Klingons and not what they look like in season 1 of Discovery, because that there was so much makeup caked on those guys that you couldn't understand what they were saying. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that just the different people running the shows. It's pretty much what it is.
Because once Terry got a hold of like the difference in season 1 and 2 of Picard, and then once Terry became complete showrunner in season 3, the entire season 3 of Picard is like an entirely different tonally. It
could be its own thing. Literally.
Yeah, that's kind of how I view it now. Yeah, I'm like, it starts with, because it's weird. He has a whole different like perspective. Picard is even different in season 3, where he kind of accepts in season 2 and season 1 that he's like, I'm going out to do this one thing in space, and then but I'm not. That's not where I'm. I'm at where I'm supposed to be here, at my family vineyard. And then you get to season 3, and he's like, I need to get out of here, man. Like, I gotta go. I want to get the band back together. Let's go save Beverly. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I gotta hop off here, man.
It's all good. I'm probably gonna end the show anyway. So,
cool.
But thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, dude,
talking about Night of the Batman.
Yeah.
Of course, I think I want to try to get you back on when it releases, so that
definitely that'll be next year for sure.
Okay.
Or when the trailer comes out or whatever, we can discuss that a bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing a couple different things when that comes out. So
okay.
Yeah. So and so next year, 2024 is when that's coming out. For anybody who was asking, and it will be on YouTube. I don't know where exactly I'm going to be debuting it, but it will be a YouTube thing.
Okay.
Some people had asked me about Twitter, and I was like, why would I do that?
I mean, you could, but
yeah, I was like, yeah, I can post an hour-long video, but why would I do that?
Exactly.
But yeah, so YouTube next year, and I'd love to talk about it once the trailer comes out. Have a little more content. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
that's good. All right, guys, we're going to end the show. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and thanks to Aaron, of course, for being here. Make sure you follow Aaron on social media, of course. He has his @ mentioned there, Aaron Bailey Art, and we will have him on the show again, and hopefully we'll have a regular show next week with Andy back. I don't know what's going on. But anyways, hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.